All right, new video guys. I've been coaching a bunch of you last couple of days. I want to start this off by just, kind of people have been asking what is the coaching like, especially when they're signing up and stuff, what happens and so on. So, my coaching is essentially like really, really dependent on what you're required. Like, what do you need to improve? But I teach every single deck. I coach multiple players with different archetypes, different decks, and it's not about just playing. One of the big things that was asked last night was, do you just coach the meta decks? Are you gonna push me towards playing the meta decks, or are you gonna like I like these different type of decks or this archetype or this Gundam series? And in Gundam, I coach everything. So I don't just build and play decks that are Wing or One Year War. I play everything. So I play Clan, for example, you guys know, Academy even, and Unicorn, another one that people want to like look into and enjoy playing, right? So one of the guys will be playing his Unicorn deck in the upcoming Eggman tournament. See how well he does. It's just a rough draft of it quickly. And so with deck making, I think trading card games, you really want to use your mind and have fun tinkering with your deck as a puzzle piece, not just copy paste the top deck. And I really, really hate um, the scene when everybody is just copy pasting decks. I enjoy it when, yes, we know what the top decks did well this weekend or at the regionals, but we're still going to go to our locals with our own ideas. Maybe we'll take some ideas from the decks or a card and so on and learn from it, but we're going to use what we learned to basically move forward and keep improving our own decks or our own deck ideas. And we're not just going to say, okay, we're going to go to our locals, we're just trying to win, we're going to play 1 year war no matter what. That's not exactly what people should be doing, and there's decks that can, especially going to GD03, that will put the beating on 1 year war more often, and there's going to be decks that are going to be, very, very gross into blocker decks. So if you're like a person who just plays one deck or only likes to like wait till the deck lists come out and then copy it and play it, honestly, everybody else who actually builds decks or will be getting coaching will be so far ahead of what people are going to be building and playing in the first week, second week, third week. And there's a lot of decks we saw in GDO2, the red white deck, the red velvet deck. That deck has pre-existed GDO2. It existed in GDO1 and it was very strong and it countered Wing in particular very, very hard. And it was very solid into blue white as well. People just weren't playing it. So that leads me to the next topic of what is like what happened when you get coaching, right? So pretty much I can teach you what tempo means. One of the questions people ask me is what is tempo? What is early game, mid range, and like late game decks? And I explain that to you, and I don't just tell you the whole like you can enter it into Google. What is a mid range deck in TCGs? It will give you an answer, but I'll show you a live example in my own way of what that actually means and how you should feel about when you're playing into a mid-range deck or how when are you strong, when are you weak, and what generally happens in a live example, um, using visuals and stuff. So you don't just read text and be like, oh, a mid-range deck wins in the mid game or powers up in the mid game. It's like, well, how does that actually contrast with the early game versus the late game decks, and what does that look like? Because when you hit mid game, that doesn't just mean you start winning against late game decks or early game decks. You kind of have to grow in it, and sometimes it can change when you're playing the game. It can, depending on how you play it out, it means that the mid game might come later or might come earlier. So I teach like tempo. I teach that concept. Any questions you guys have, I basically answer them and give you my own experience from playing since I was 4. That was another question, like, who am I? What credentials do I have? And all this stuff. So, let me just quickly show you, like, this is my Discord server for my clients. We go to the testimonials section, and like, I have all these testimonials up here from all the way from the top. I coach different games, but here we can kind of see some of these. You guys can, pause it or stop it and read some of these. Like right here, we got Paul. Paul had already played a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh card games and stuff. And he played competitively pretty much. He wants to win, and he learned a lot. And it's not just about learning how to play a certain matchup or learning Gundam in particular. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran of trading card games. You can learn a lot from somebody who doesn't just play the game and is a good player, but from someone who actually puts their thought process into everything and understands a deeper understand, like basically has a deeper understanding of the game and TCGs in themselves, right? The deep constructs of what make the TCG and how we go about it. A lot of times you'll just understand people use words like your friends, mid range or tempo, but they don't really tell you what tempo is besides the definition of it. But then when you're trying to learn a new word, it's like, well, don't just learn the definition of the word, understand how to use that word in sentences, right? That's what they give you, a sentence to show you like this is the word, this is how you're used in sentences, and so on. So that's what I'm doing as well and teaching fundamentals. I'm very fundamental and philosophy based, or um, and so I really teach you things of how I got to that point, not just what is the point, but how to get to that point if you were to do it on your own, right? How do we get electricity? How do we get how do we learn that gravity exists and all these things? It's not just about learning what gravity is and, how much gravity, etc. It's how do we get to that point? So if you need to learn something or, go about your way and discover something new, you can, and have the basis of we got to learn how to play this deck this well and what went into it based on concepts and based on how many ratios we were playing of something. And I teach you deck making skills as well. That's a big thing that I teach is deck making, so that you don't have to come and ask me or look at deck lists online. You will look at a deck list online and you will judge that deck list and understand that there are flaws in that deck list because you are a better deck maker, because you got coaching on how to create decks. And when you look at a deck, you can tell yourself that based on what I understand about um, deck making and reading decks now, you can evaluate that deck and say, well, this is a good deck at one, but this is missing some key cards or missing some key pieces, or we can adjust some ratios here to actually improve this deck. Okay. It's almost like a race car driver. He might be driving the car really well and wins the race, but an engineer comes around and says, well, I can make your car move fast. I can drive it faster. And then the engineer comes around, or a really good driver comes and says, "Hey, man, your car is really good, your AKA your deck is really good, but you're not utilizing it to 100%. If you make these adjustments, and then you might have to drive the car for a bit to practice with it, but you're gonna learn a new skill and drive the car to its extreme, and that's what makes the difference between an average car driver, like a really good driver of a race car, compared to a like top tier race car driver who takes more risks and understands that he can really shave seconds off his timer because he's using his own skill compared to the deck. Okay, the deck might be doing a lot of it might be really powerful in terms of like blue white blockers, for example. It's really easy to play. It does what it's supposed to do, and you can make a lot of mistakes. But the deck is winning. It's not you winning with the deck. Like you're not making the deck win. The deck is making you win, and we don't want the deck making you win. We want you making the deck perform as much as it can and be really really well. This one I like the best. Okay, Arjun, I want you guys to basically pause here and read this. This one basically sums up why you should get coaching with me, and in my opinion puts it the best. Um, so read that. Take it as you will, but that's the best one I found. That I call him McTrump. That's his username, but Arjun Dari put down here and said it. I think I like this is the best one that I like. It's like straight to the point, and it's not about what he learned or not. It's really what coaching with me gets you essentially, and what differs me from other coaches. Okay, so there's a bunch more here. You guys can basically read it. Not all of these are like TCG coaching, but like here's another one that's the TCG coaching. So that's pretty much that. Okay, going to GD03. Okay, so sorry about that early rant there, but hopefully you guys enjoy me talking. Today I'm going to be pretty much talking about some of the decks I have and sharing with you, like I have an EX Burst. It's kind of glitchy. I don't know why sometimes I upload a deck list and people can't see it because it's not like, I guess, updated yet or something. But talking about the meta moving forward and GD03 and like what are the really, really good cards to watch out for. Okay, this is going to be another longer video. But if you want to look at different deck lists, like, you can skip forward or so on, but I'm going to be talking about right now what are the main cards that I think are really really good and that you should be building around and looking at, and then how those cards affect the metagame, and then I'll share some of the deck lists with you quickly. But yeah, so pretty much the main cards that I find are really really powerful in the next set is if you're playing purple, you really want to look at determination, okay? The biggest flaw with Gundam is that aggro beats you before you can even start playing the game, right? Nobody has fun when you sit down, your opponent just plays One Year War or some other aggro deck, and Amar Ray taps you, or Athens Zala's you, or Academy bounces you, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I played two cards this game and you basically killed me, and then I'm gonna wait 25 minutes for the next round to start so I can play into somebody else who, oh, look at that, he's also playing aggro, and now I showed up to the tournament, I played about 6 cards total, lost all my games in about 5 minutes, and basically had to spend an hour and a half doing nothing, right? Or an hour doing nothing. You don't want to do that. So aggro sucks to play against. I get it, and some people like playing aggro, which is totally fine. Um, but aggro is abusing the game in a way that it shouldn't be, and that's not what I think the game designers intended it to do. But I don't think Bandai really put a lot of depth into like how the game would actually play. They just kind of made cards, said the cards are good enough, and we're gonna ship them, ship them, ship them, and here we are. So look at determination basically just kills a level 2 or lower unit if you have 10 or more cards in your graveyard, which if you're playing purple, you're going to have, or with even other decks like Academy, you're going to have 10 cards in your trash. You can really just play this card in Academy and just start popping units. If you play like Academy with purple cards, bring this card back to your hand, cast it, kill another level 4 unit later on. And the main thing is that it activates from burst, right? If you've been following me for a long time, not that long, but if you're like, some of you guys watching this might have known me for months. Burst is a mechanic in Gundam, and people are not using it. I am like the godfather of burst archetypes, and burst is an extremely powerful mechanic. If you guys start building decks that have like 30 plus burst cards or 28 to 30 plus burst cards, you're gonna have a different view up and a different opinion on how Gundam actually plays. Right? In other Bandai games, the burst effect is like useful in One Piece or Union Arena and Dragon Ball Z, Digimon and stuff. And in Gundam, people aren't really utilizing the burst to its maximum amount. Like it's there for Striker Pack and pilots, but that's really it. If you actually remove the pilots, we're not really activating a lot of cards from burst outside of Striker Pack, and bases. Again, don't count bases because they're just a base, right? But these cards that have burst, which red has a lot and purple has this new one, is really, really powerful. And this shuts down aggro because when an aggro attacks your shield with their GM, hits this card, you kill the GM immediately, okay? When they hit your shield, you kill the second GM that's standing. It's really, really good. Right, I know this only works on active, so okay. So don't nitpick me here. Pretty much this is really good. You guys should be playing this in a purple deck, especially if you guys enjoy Vulture, which we'll get to a deck list later. Moving on from this purple card, we're going to be going to the main, the best cards in the deck pretty much in the game. And we'll go to like, where is it? GQ, okay? This card right here. What did GD03 really do? And they were glimpsing at it with the reveals, is adding in big, tougher monsters. What this means is we're finally getting a top end to Gundam. And this is the top end of top ends in Gundam right now. This is if you're playing red, you pretty much should be playing 4 copies of this. Like, I would say automatically, and then you adjust it to 3 if you need to. But this is the boss monster, and you don't need a pilot. You don't need anything. All of his abilities activate on deploy and always has suppression. This is your boss monster. This is the card that tells your opponent, deal with me, or I'm going to close out the game in a turn or two. Right? And that's what you really want. You want a card in Gundam when you get to the late game that if your opponent cannot deal with it, the game will come to an end. You're not going to be in those stalemate situations of like, let's top deck some more cards, let's hit your opponent for 1 shield and then 1 shield. No, you're going to hit them for suppression and then suppression next turn, and they're pretty much going to die the following turn or on that same turn. Okay, so this card is really important. It's probably the best card, or it's probably a top 3 card in Gundam. Okay, if you want to argue it's not the best card in Gundam, with the Wing Zero right there, and the New Freedom, that's fine. But as far as its effect power goes, it's one of the best cards in the game for what it does and how useful it is and how it also changes the game. Okay. Um, Moving on from that, we have Improved Technique. This is the other super, super powerful card. Red got a lot of power in this game, or in this set, and this card changes up how Red's going to play, and it changes it up again. It beats aggro. Why does it beat aggro? Because when we run Close Combat, Improved Technique, and Battle Aces in the same deck, well, all of a sudden, almost every single time our opponent hits our shield, they're going to get hit by one of these burst effects, and they're going to lose a unit. So now what happens, and why the burst style of decks are extremely powerful, and why I gravitated them in the first place at the very beginning is the aggro decks are playing 2 cards a turn, and you're playing 1 card a turn. Ultimately, you fall behind, and you've been leaking damage, and you will basically die. Okay, that's the problem. To keep up with this, to their 2 cards and your 1 card, you must be playing extra cards out of burst. So you let the burst play extra cards for you. And not only is that a +1 because you have artificially played a card, so you get a +1 out of it. You also get to kill your opponent's card with close combats, and things like this, right? It doesn't matter if it's a close combat or a first contact to give you an EX resource or a Witch in the Bride. The point is you're playing extra cards, keeping up with how many cards your opponent has played. And number two, you are removing their units off the board. Okay, that either slows them down, kills their units, and destabilizes their board. So basically, every single time they play a unit, by the time their next turn starts, after they've swung at you, all the units will be dead because you will have swung with them with like Gelgoog or something, your early game cards. You blocked with Lifrith, or you're gonna link something and attack into it and basically get rid of their board. You're gonna control their board at a very effective pace, and so the harder they hit you, the more they hit you, the more you're gonna backfire at them and basically take out all their cards. Like, the more they hit you, basically the more chances you have of hitting your burst effects. And it's like, they're basically helping you play more cards. So the more they want to play, the more you get to play, and you keep up with them until they eventually can't either they kill you or you will stabilize and kill them. Okay, because they don't get to hit you multiple times with the same card over and over again. So improved technique is very strong. If you're playing Academy, honestly, any red deck, you are starting the deck with essentially 4 G-Cluxes and 4 improved techniques, and then you're going to follow up with that with close combats, essentially. Battle Aces, you don't have to play this card, but I think Battle Ace is very powerful because of it dealing 3 damage and because of the, a technique I call doing nothing. You don't do anything, you hold close combat and Battle Aces in your hand. You don't show your opponent what you're doing. They don't know what they're doing because they haven't experience this high advanced level of play where you hold your cards and you play close combat battle aces. So the game starts playing much like Magic the Gathering or other card games where you can actually play cards from your hand in your opponent's turn, ultimately, um, you know, making them feel bad, but also being like, oh, I fell into your trap or you did a really good play here. I've never experienced that. It's time for the Gundam community to level up because I'm going to be honest, the Bandai card game community is not a very, very competitive card game community in terms of like Yu-Gi-Oh or high-end Magic and like poker and stuff like this. So people are going to level up, they're going to improve at the game, but they're going to start grasping that, okay, we can use cards this way. As an experienced trading card game player, in deck making, number one, and critical thinking and playing a lot of card games, this comes commonly to me. And again, even if you're experienced card game player playing for multiple years or playing Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic to this, um, you know, depending on your skill level, you might have never tried to do these things. Um, okay, so this is the really high-end card, really, really powerful. So we got G-Clux, we got Improved Technique, we got the purple card. Okay, now moving forward to the next really, really strong cards that are coming out is going to be Barbados. Okay, let me tell you about this card. This card says exile 3 Tekadon Taiwas cards from your graveyard and deal 2 damage to a unit. Well, guess what? That's a close combat. This card literally plays close combats for free for you by just exiling cards. This entire deck is Taiwas and Tekadon, as you guys can see. If you guys are a big Mikazuki fan and IBO, go ahead and play this deck, see how it feels, and then make adjustments to whatever you want. Maybe change colors and take out the white card. Um, these are all like rough drafts right here. But this deck has been performing really well. Not in terms of like, is Barbados doing really well or is a specific card doing really well. But this card right here is really a really strong endgame monster. And this is one of my top 5 cards in the next set in Gundam in general, but GD03 particularly. This card is insane. On average, I cast this card's ability 5 times. So that means I get to cast 5 close combats for free. That is 10 damage that I can do for free. I've killed 2 Gundams with this, and I've spread the damage around to kill multiple 2 cost units. And once you clear the board, you're going to still draw cards, still play more cards, um, and you're going to cast this card's ability maybe 7, 8 times in a game before you close it out. That's really, really strong, and that's really good against aggro decks and token decks because they have no time to stabilize. And the best thing about this is that if your opponent plays, for example, their own Barbados Lupus, but they have nothing else to do with this ability, you play your Barbaros Lupus, you can now just ping theirs off by removing 9 cards from your graveyard. That is an immediate kill spell, pretty much. And this is going to be more effective into like Freedom Gundam, for example. You don't need to attack into the blockers. You can just use its ability, ping off their big blockers, and there goes that. You can ping off their Lifrits by removing a bunch of cards, and there goes their blockers. It's basically just free card advantage, and this card is the big boss monster of uh Tekkadan basically in the next set, or purple in general. But you really do need to play Tekkadan Taiwas very heavily to play this card. So if you're not playing Tekkadan, don't bother playing this because it's not gonna, 3 cards is not willy-nilly. So each of the purple archetypes kind of play within themselves. And lucky for us that Tekkadan can tie in with Taiwas, so we can play some Taiwa stuff with it as well, like this card right here. Okay. Barbados First Form. If you're gonna pick up these cards, pick it up now if you haven't. If you love purple, this is a great card, and this is gonna be moving forward. This is gonna be like the show resolve. This is gonna be the best purple unit that you really need in every single Tekkadan deck, or even just purple decks in general. If you start pinging this guy with other abilities like, this card right here, or with Iron Blood and other cards like that. So awesome, awesome stuff. Okay, let's move on from this. Actually, before I move on, let me just tell you about the Gundam 5th form. So this stat line right here was first introduced in GD02 with a Gundam called Gundam Ferract in Academy, but nobody played Academy, so nobody was using this amazing stat line. This is basically the bigger Rizal. If you guys loved Rizal at any point in your life, this is bigger Rizal. The benefit to this is that Rizal died to Wing Zero and stuff. This does not die to Wing Zero. That was Rizal's biggest downfall. The other thing is that this is level 5. Not a lot of cards can always interact with it. And it's got 5 attack power. That means that it can kill almost anything in the game without having a pilot on top of it. Which means it can kill Gundam, it can kill Kshatriya Link, it can kill the new Gundams coming out, NT1 and stuff. It can kill Barbados, right, without a pilot on it. It can kill it. If these things are pinged, it can kill it. So it basically gets through almost anything in the game. It can kill Rebake immediately on swing, and that's important. So the 5/4 stat line for only 3 cost, by the way, right? Imagine you're playing a card for 3 cost. This card has the same stat line as Lupus and is half the cost. That's crazy. For having half the cost, it pretty much is a full boss monster, but with no abilities. So we're paying 3 extra resources for basically this card's ability, but if we don't need the ability, we get a boss monster for 3 less cost and a level 5, which is awesome. So you guys should be looking at this stat line if you can. I believe the only places where this exists at the moment is in purple with this card, in white with Gundam Ferract, and in blue with Unicorn. So if you like Unicorn, this card exists. This stat line exists in Unicorn as well, which it links with Bandager, which draws your card, so it's even better. Okay, so keep an eye out for this. There might be other colors that I haven't like looked at or don't remember, but I'm pretty sure those are the 3 that exist at the moment. Okay. Then we're gonna look at Freedom Gundam. Now, guys, this card is insane for its ability. How strong is it going to be? If you're gonna be going into GD03 as a blocker person, please look at this deck. It's gonna be. This is where I'm going with in terms of blockers, because the next card I'm gonna talk about is Ultron Gundam, and Ultron Gundam is really strong. Okay, there's not much to look at in the white deck besides Freedom Gundam. We know what Freedom Gundam does. You can't take shield damage. Just to let you guys know, you can't receive battle damage from enemy units. That does not mean that it stops a breach, and that also means that your base is still vulnerable. So some of you guys are like newer to card games, or maybe you guys haven't read this card fully. Breach will still deal damage to your shields, and your actual bases will still take damage. So Freedom does not protect yourself from effect damage / breach, and it does not protect you from your bases taking damage. It does protect you from your shield being hit as long as he is arrested. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Ultron Gundam deals 5 damage on attack. It's a bigger Shenlong. I will pull it up for you guys right here in case you guys want to see. Ultron G team. Okay, I don't know what it's doing. Here we go. Okay, so Ultron Gundam is level 8 6 cost 5/6, linked to Shang Fei. right? Shang Wu Fei cannot take battle damage on his turn from AP3 or less units if the unit has breach, which he does. This thing has breach 5, so it's going to break 5 HP bases. It also has on attack, choose a unit with blocker and deal 5 damage to it, which basically kills Ale Strike and kills like Launcher Strike and a lot of blockers in the game, like Rebuke and stuff. Basically, almost every single blocker except for the Big Freedom and maybe the Big Sletta if it's paired, right? So uh not Soletta, but Gunamiriel rebuild with the blocker keyword and hand maneuver. So this card killed everything. How do we get across this? Well, it's restricted to 5 damage. What that means is that if you're playing blocker decks and you're like, well, I can't play blocker decks because Ultron's gonna kill me, Shenlong's gonna kill my blockers, I can't do it. Well, guess what, guys? All you have to do is bump up your HP to 6. How do you do that? Well, you play Soletta Mercury plus 2 HP. Your Ale Strike now can bounce something. It itself cannot be balanced. It itself cannot be armor array tapped. It cannot be tapped by other effects in the game as well because they're very like restricted in terms of what they can actually rest. And Soletta is going to go on anything you want. It's going to give you extra resources. It's going to make sure that you cannot be interactive with, and it's going to be really, really good for your Ale Strikes because Ultron is going to attack, deal 5 to Ale Strike. It does not kill it. And then you can basically block Ale Strike if you need to with something else, or moving on to like this guy right here, right? You put this on Ale Strike, it automatically has 2 HP, which is what we want, just like the Sletta outline. But the big thing is if there's a base in play, you get plus 2 AP. This is like basically hero for white decks. Plus 3 plus 2 means you put this on Ale Strike, you're a 7/6. If you're a 7/6, you will basically kill anything in the game. You will kill Freedom Gundams, you will kill Wing Gundams, you will kill Ultron because Ultron is a 7/7 with the pilot on him. You will kill Death Sights, you will kill Zeta Gundams, Epions, everything. And they cannot tap you, they cannot um, ping you sometimes because your AP might be too high with the base. Your level is pretty good enough. You're going to have so much HP that the Ultron will not be able to kill you. So if you're going to play blockers, this is the way to deal with Ultron. Um, in my opinion so far. I haven't fully crafted this deck out yet, but this is like my rough draft. So go ahead and if you want to go out for tests, let me know how any of these decks that I'm showing feel for you guys so I can get some feedback on how you guys experienced it. Because I play a lot of decks and also have to coach. And I haven't gotten to the white part yet because the white part, I'm going to be honest with, is mostly boring for me. If it's boring for you guys, I understand. So if you are a white player, though, this might be the direction you want to go into. So I coach you guys to move forward into the meta, and I don't want to stall and wait till the deck lists are posted. Okay, we are thinking ahead. We are thinking, what is the counter to the counter to the counter? What works? What are the good cards? How do we make the good cards work? Not how do we make the good cards like not work? And then if there is a very good card, how are we going to counter it? If there's a Freedom Gundam, how are we going to beat it? If there's a the new G-Quux card, how are we going to beat that card? Okay. And this is one of the ways. Again, if you're playing into the Ultron or a lot of Breach decks, people are trying to play a lot of Breach next set. Our Gamma's going to be a, 4 of, so we're not going to get hit. Our blockers are so tanky now with this plus 2 HP that we're taking on everything that they're not going to be able to get through our blockers and they're not going to be able to get through our Gamma with Breach. So they're just going to be shut down completely, which is huge. Also, it's really, really nice because if you play Soletta or Soletta and these things, you can play Lifrith and Soletta and they can't armor array you and they cannot swing Athranzala with AM mode into you, which means they don't get the breach value, they don't get your blocker. Now you can block things. Basically, it shuts down Athranzala, shuts down armor array. They have no interaction with you, so the aggro decks get slowed down, and then we still have our Gamma shut down breaches, and then we start playing our own blockers, and we still got tapping abilities, and it's you don't really feel afraid into aggro when you have multiple blockers on the table. What you do feel afraid into aggro is when you play your only blocker and they armor array and tap it and kill it, or you play Athranzala and kill it, and now you're like back to having no units, so you gotta try to refill the board, and you really can't. This interesting card right here, amazing card. If we're playing we're going to the mid game a lot and the higher end, having a 4/4 stat line is going to be more important because a lot of cards you'll see Ale Strike has 4 HP, Lifrith has 4 HP, Zeta Gundam has 4 HP without a pilot, Ariel, and all these cards have 4 HP, right? A lot of the red cards also only have 4 HP. It's only when we get into like green that we start seeing that green favors HP more than attack power. Okay. and blue has some top end as well. So blue and green are like the top end cards that have more HP. But Michaelis is a 4/4 for 2, is really, really strong. And we're playing a lot of command cards. We're playing Overflowings, Show Resolves. We even have a new sign in here to get our base back if we need to from Burst, or to like funnel more cards, which is basically our fourth Overflowing. And we're playing Striker Pack. So we have a lot of cards to make sure that the Michaelis is doing its work. Now, we're not playing Rick Diaz's because guess what? I hate Rick Diaz because it dies to Shenlong. It dies to the new 3 damage burn spells that red has access to. So we want to stay away from 3 HP as much as possible. 3 HP in the previous set was like, oh, we can't overcome this. It's really difficult. In the new set, 4 is the new 3. So however you struggle with 3, you got to make them struggle with 4 now, right? And because there's a lot of 4 in the metagame, what we're really trying to do is make them struggle with 5. Okay, so this is how it works. Like, it's basically the whole economy is 3 was the worst, now it's 4. 4 is really, really strong. But now that 4 is across the board, like in multiples, we really are trying to get to 5, and that's where it's going to shine. Which is why the 5 attack power stat line is going to be really, really good, like Gundam Pharax and things. And once we get to the 5, every single link in the game pretty much is a 6/6. So we're really trying to go even bigger because these big endgame cards are going to come in for 7/7, 8/8, right? And they're going to be matching, almost matching Wing Zero with Hero on him. Once we get to that really endgame with Unicorn and Freedom and um, Ultron and the new G-Quux is going to be really, really strong, especially if they're playing Nyan. They can make that G-Quux having 2 HP instead of just +1 be really, really good. So those are like my best cards in this new set. Really, really strong. I don't think I'm forgetting any because those are like literally the cards that I'm building decks around. Let me just quickly show you like what a few of these decks look like real fast. So the white one we just saw, white ain't dead yet. The Grape Juice Tekken deck we just saw as well. And then we're going to go with the Exia build. Now, not a lot of Exia or double O enjoyers are trying to build the green and the purple together. You know, I'll probably do that at some point too. Maybe a green build, more on the green side. But immediately we're going into the whole, how do we stop aggro decks, right? We're trying to go into the end game and stabilize against aggro. Aggro abuses the early part of the game. Well, we're playing Look at Determination, kill their cards. Close Combat, kill their cards. We're playing a base that just says that their low cost units can't deal damage to us once we have our guys on the board. And so they're going to have to trade into us, ultimately killing their cards. We have improved technique, again, killing their cards and their Rick Diaz's and their Anxas and stuff like this. And then we have all of our units, right? And once we get to the end game, how are we dealing with the big guys? We are dealing with the big guys with Gundam Exia by taking care of their level 4, level 5 guys, and then Trans Am comes in. Trans Am is going to be activated by the time that it comes in, most likely, and it's going to destroy their lowest HP unit. So we're going to build value off of it, right? And then they deal with it. We play our second Trans Am, and we basically start killing the level 8s. So once we get to that late game boss monster versus boss monster, 1 for 1, pound for pound, the thing about Arexia is that when we swing with it, they lose their boss monster for free because it's the only card that they have on the table. And in these endgame scenarios, what happens at the moment is, you know, I play my first G-Quux, you kill it. I play my second G-Quux, you kill it. But what do you do with the third G-Quux or the third Ultron? Or, you know, sometimes when you're playing Wing right now, I have a Wing deck in front of me. You guys can see it here. I'm playing, you know, 4 Shenlong. I'm playing 3 Wing Gundams. I'm playing 4 Death Sights, 3 Wing Zeros. And I'm also playing 4 Ultrons and 4 Death Sights. I already said Death Sights, but my point is we're playing so much top end that the big boss monsters are going to keep coming. They're not going to stop. They're going to go big level 8, big level 8, big level 8. It's like, well, you deal with 1, you deal with 2, but ultimately you're going to lose the game because these big end game decks are going to have actual end game monsters now and multiple copies of them, right? They might have 8 level 8s in their deck. Might have more than that. I've got Path to Victory in my deck, so when I draw this, it's ultimately going to go get me a Link or going to go get me another big boss monster that I need, basically another Ultron Gundam immediately or Wing Zero, and you can't just deal with those cards as a mid to early game deck. So Gundam X is going to really help us out, and it has suppression on top of it, so it's going to help close the games out against other decks, or before they can play their own boss monsters and dig into like 1 or 2 cards deep, right? So that's what we're doing here with this deck. Okay, make your own versions of this. Vulture deck, I posted a picture in my Discord. Vulture deck, this card's gonna become a lot better. You know why? Because again, how do we deal with those big cards, those level 8 monsters? We don't have cards in our deck that can just swing into a level 8 and kill it. We can't kill a Wing Gundam Zero with just like spending. We can't spend 3 cards to kill a Wing Gundam Zero. So what we have to do is play this card and just play this card for 4 cost, kill the Wing Gundam Zero. Play this card, kill their Freedom Gundam on turn 7. Right? Kill their G-Quox if they play it. Kill whatever you need to kill and get rid of it immediately. This is a great card, and I think the altar is pretty cool too. So this is a good card, and it again plays into the whole thing of look at this burst package, guys. Look at determination, kill aggro, kill aggro, kill aggro. Decisive last strike. Guess what? It's got a close combat, right? Level 3 or lower, take 2 damage, kill aggro. So we're playing all these cards that if our opponent is going to aggro, try to aggro us out, we're going to obviously have some of our early game cards here like Airmaster, but then we have so many burst cards that we can deal with them. We're going to deal with all of the early game cards for free, essentially from our shield area, or playing it from our hand, and they're never going to get to stabilize their board, essentially. As soon as they play their units, they're going to die. We even have a blocker in this deck that we can also resurrect with this card. And we can also have a GX bit. This is a new purple card for Vulture, guys. It basically just says if you respawn me or summon me from the graveyard, deal 2 damage to an enemy unit. It's a close combat on revival. How do you revive it? You revive it with Divider, okay? You bring it back. It costs 2. You play this. On the next turn, you link it at some point, and then you summon this guy from your trash. It pings for 2 damage, kills their like leftover units, or maybe a big guy that's already hurt from taking a block from Airmaster. Really, really nice. And then if we ever need to bring back our Airmaster, or sorry, our this Airmaster right here as a blocker in the late game against aggro or against any deck, we can resummon him with him and have a blocker. So we have a lot of pluses here. This card helps us cycle through our deck and discard cards into our graveyard. We don't even mind discarding Gundam X into our graveyard because we're playing this Gundam X, which brings this card right back to our hand, brings this card right back to our hand, and it's a really good engine right here. Having 10 cards in the graveyard to kill a level 4 unit is also going to be useful. Like, you can really just ping these guys off, right? There's a lot of level 4 mid-range cards in the game. You can finish them off with this, and yeah, it's like really, really nice. So there's a lot of experimentation to do. Play whatever deck you guys like. There's so many decks that you guys can build, and ultimately just understand that if you want to beat aggro, play a lot of burst, and you do not need to play GMs. My philosophy is if you're a mid-range deck like Clan or Academy, we don't play 1-drop cards. In most other card games like Magic the Gathering or even Hearthstone, you would see mid-range decks and late-game decks not play any 1-drops or 2-drops because they don't need to. They're trying to win on turn 8 through 12. They're not trying to win on turn 5 or trying to stabilize against an aggro deck with their own GMs, right? That just takes up a waste of space. And then when you do play into the late game decks, we have a GM that's going to die from Wing Zero, and it's not useful in those matchups. We do want to win the other matchups, and when we play into aggro, it is ultimately going to come down, just like in other card games. Hey, did the aggro kill us, or did we live, right? And it's up to the aggro player to make the correct decisions and how good of an aggro player he is. So I think going into I'm gonna put this clan deck up so you guys can basically see how a clan deck looks like in the next set. Quick adjustments and stuff. You guys were asking me. But pretty much going to the next set, what is going to be very, very I think what's going to happen is, yes, people will still play aggro. Depending on how fast the metagame changes and how fast people realize that, hey, we should probably do something else that's not just play blockers and play aggro, the aggro deck is going to fall back because of all these burst cards coming into the game, and because people actually have answers to it in terms of the Tekkanen deck that just keep blasting cards off the table, and you can't just go wide anymore. We actually have interaction of attacking standing units a lot more. In Double O, we have blockers, we have the taunt mechanic, right? Aggro is not dead, guys. Aggro is 100% not dead. Aggro will not die until maybe the next set or the set after that, and even then, aggro's aggressive decks are always going to be part of the game. Aggro is not dead. The blue-white deck is so broken, or not the blue-white deck. The 1-year war deck is so broken fundamentally, and it's attacking the most crucial part of the game, which is the shield area. and in terms of its design of like anything can deal 1 damage to it and kill a shield, and how fast it spits out units, that aggro is not dead. There's a different aggro deck that is like super low to the ground, that is not 1 year war, that will maybe pick up steam because of how fast it deploys units and how quickly it kills you. 1 year war does not try to kill you super super quick, even though it does do that, but that's not its main design. Like that's not its like main thing to do. It has backup mechanics in the sense of like show resolves and summoning tokens and Corsica bases and really trying to get a lot of value out of like Sharzaku 2s and stuff. While there's other aggro decks that don't even play Gundams or Corsica bases, and they're really just trying to drop a lot of units and kill you as fast as possible, like full on just 1 drops in the whole deck and just trying to kill you. So those decks might pick up steam. We'll have to see. Um, right? But aggro decks are gonna people are gonna struggle with them because once people start playing these type of decks that have a lot of bursts, especially red. If you like red velvet or red white decks, they're gonna be really good. If you like clan, right? Look at this, man. How is my aggro deck? We were already doing decently okay into aggro, but now that we have 12 cards that are gonna kill the aggro player's units as soon as they hit our shields or we play them from hand, they're gonna fall so far behind. And one of the most powerful things into beating aggro is these links that come out at level 4. Playing a red Gundam with a Suji Ito link means that we actually have speed, unlike other decks that really have to wait till Kshatriya link or Ailstrike link. We get to link a turn earlier and save ourselves from 1 HP, and then attack again the next turn and save ourselves from another HP. It's gonna be really, really good for us. Just put an end to basically like these aggro decks, especially people who play aggro and play it not as good as other people, and the players that are playing it just to get free wins because they're like, oh, I just want to win. I don't really care about being good or that or this. I just want to win games, and having fun for me right now is winning games because when I play any of the decks, I just lose and they're kind of salty about it. So to those players, I kind of say like, kind of go to hell, but because they've given up on what their favorite Gundams are, their favorite archetypes, and have stopped experimenting. And I want the gun community to really experiment and put their own brains to work and don't just say Wing is the best deck. Multiple people in the world that are really, really good at Gundam or card games all agree that Wing is like the fourth best deck in the game. It's the most played deck, but it's not the best deck in the game. It hasn't even won in a regional, like one regional that it won because his opponent got DQ'd, and then the top final match, his opponent mulliganed into a brick hand, and so that guy really lost multiple games in that tournament, but somehow won the tournament even though like he literally lost the game, and then the judge DQ'd somebody else like later on, and so he got to like keep going because the wing player called the judge on the opponent after losing to him, which is like kind of sketchy in my opinion. They didn't reveal why or what happened. Okay, so wing is not the best deck. Moving forward, Ultron is going to destroy blockers, but if blocker players adjust, like I showed you, and in other ways as well with unforeseens or whatever they're going to do, maybe don't even play even less blockers, but play big endgame cards, and play more on the command side. One thing I didn't comment on is playing Map Tactics. Map Tactics is a perfect card for a Gundam aerial rebuild. Rebuild didn't have a really strong card to go get that was aggressive. It was just like show resolves. You would just go get show resolves basically. But now we have Map Tactics with the rebuild. So green white rebuild is gonna go get its Map Tactics, which deploys its 2 units. So we can really just put the beat down on our opponent, which is what we want to do in the academy deck in the first place. Just like clan, just keep sending units at our opponent's face, get the Map Tactics back, send more units, and they can't deal with everything. So they're gonna have to have board wipes. My mic fell out of my headset. They have to have board wipes and stuff to clear everything. One thing I'll mention at the end of this video is Nyan and Gfred are a card that is a very unique and good card, but it's gonna be it's kind of difficult right now to exactly see how good of a card it's gonna be. I haven't really play tested it that much, but in theory, it's a good card. Its ability is okay because 1 damage to everything is cool, but it doesn't kill anything, and that's the problem with it. It's gonna be really good into token decks, but it's not gonna kill anything else. And that was the same problem. I've tested so many games with all range attacks, even having 2 all range attacks. And you guys won't believe me when I have 2 or 3 all range attacks in my hand, and I kill 5 units from the aggro side, and I still lose the game, even though I had like 5 shields. Like the most perfect hand I can think of, and I still lose to aggro. So, we're gonna have to see what happened with Nyan and the new G unit card that also pings for everything. Double O pings everything for 1 damage on attack. Heavy Arms from GD01 pings everything when it kills a unit. All range attack and G Fred. The other G Fred card, the one that's is summoned out of base, it's G is very good. This card is a very good card because of its burst ability. It's very unique and it's very strong. It also links with Nyan, which is perfect because if you're playing a red deck, you're playing the new G-Cox and Nyan links with both. So you have another option to link with Nyan if you need to. Nyan is a 1/2, so it turns this thing into a 5/4, which is a good stat line like I was explaining earlier. But the main thing about this, if you're going to play this deck, this card in your deck, um, you better be going really aggressive. The flaw to this is going to be that your opponent will probably, as people play a lot of games, understand that G-Fred exists in the shield area, and they will either not hit your shields when they're trying to kill you and go for an all-in all at once, or they'll have something ready like a close combat or some ping damage from somewhere else to kill G-Fred when he gets out of burst. Okay. And that's one of the downsides. This will catch people off guard. This is a good card for aggro decks because it's only a 2 cost, which is perfect because you do want to play a lot of 2 cost cards in aggro, 1 to 2 cost cards, some 3 cost cards to like just drop multiple bodies. So this is nice for that. And when you're dropping multiple bodies, it doesn't matter. This thing has 2 HP because even if they close combat this, well, we dropped another body, maybe 2 of these, they still have to deal with the other one. So it's gonna keep applying pressure. It's a good card. Xeon with red will be interesting. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment, guys, and I'll get back to all your comments about coaching and decks and stuff. I coach all decks. Um, this is just a big, quick rundown of GD03, what it's looking like, what decks, where the decks are going, and what's going to happen, and that there's a lot of build diversity and some of the really good cards in the next set. Um, yeah, sorry for the long tangent about, this is a longer video, I guess, again, but that's kind of how my content is going to be always. It's never going to be slow. I'm always going to give you insight about everything. And one final note, people came up to me, and the reason why you guys like my videos is because I gave you information and told you the reasons why. I don't just, a lot of YouTubers are like, oh, this is the deck list. We have Gelgoog, he's a 2/3/3. We have G-Quox, he pings for 1 damage, 4/2 stat line. Like, I don't want to read the cards off to you guys and then the fucking video ends. I think it's a complete waste of time. I really want to give you the insights and how the turns go and what you should be doing so you can basically mimic my play. And when we coach, I really am trying to like craft you into a player that plays closer to me but also unique in your own ways because we all have differences. Like, I'm a more well-rounded like player, like on those like hexagonal or triangle charts. Like, I'm basically overlapping the whole triangle. But for you guys, if you guys are, having a weakness on one thing or another thing, you guys will have slightly different adjusted decks. That's another thing with coaching. My coaching is very driven towards you guys and your playstyle and your decks and what you guys enjoy, right? And I work with you because whatever anyone tells you, there's no like, you don't have to have a deck that is the build, right? It might be the build and the perfect build, but according to your skill level and how you play, mostly according to your skill level is the big one, not really how you play, but your skill level, right? It's going to be better for you to play different cards because you cannot pilot the burst mechanic that well. You cannot pilot when to play, like how to play around having multiple links or overflowings and these things. So it's going to be easier if your deck is more streamlined or more plain and simple and clear cut than a deck that is extremely complicated or has no shields. Like, some people struggle because they have no bases and, they struggle with my deck or whatnot. Almost nobody has struggled with my deck in GD02 with the G-Clox deck, but that's because there's bases in there. I personally run no bases, but it's harder to play it because you do have to make the right choice of, do I use close combat early on or do I let them hit my shields? Do I save my battle aces for way later in a unique scenario that might come up because I played this matchup 50 times? Or do I just play it right now? Right? There's all these quirks that I use to make my win rate accelerate 10-20% higher than the average person's, and those things take skill and they're not teachable and just like follow this blueprint, right? The blueprint is just a blueprint. You really do have to understand and every single like different card that's in play, how many cards are left, and these variabilities go into making the right play. All right. Signing out. Peace. See ya.